Hello guys. Today I want to talk about hardcore in computer games, and not so much. I'll start again with the background. As a child, like most middle-class families, we did not have a computer, we only had special gaming salons, in which fierce fucked up reigned in the 90s. You come in, and at the entrance you are already being watched by older boys and are looking at you closely. Do you have Babchansky? You naturally say that you have already signed up and paid for everything an hour ago. You come in, you pay, as I remember now, 12 rupees and they give you to be content with a gorgeous, shit-stained, energy-soaked monster, called Pentium 3, a whole hour. There were about 10 games installed there, but it was not considered off the scale to play only 3, these are, Warcraft Counter-Strike and Diablo. When the time ran out, you just cut off the power, but since I was smart and I quickly organized a business on small maggots that were constantly hacked in GTA Vice City. I am for a fee. I entered them codes for weapons, tanks, infinite health, and so on, but since the larvae had limited finances, I had no choice but to go home. So that you understand how much I wanted my own computer. I can say that every summer, in the village, I interrogated my friend, who already had a computer in the city at that time, and he told me on a piece of paper how to install games, what megabytes are, system requirements, and so on. And that's when I finally begged myself to study. For study * sarcasm, aha. Computer, yes, and not simple, but the most perfect at that time Pentium 4. Naturally, I immediately started installing all the games, since I was already familiar with most of the games from gaming salons. They were not particularly difficult for me. For the first time I encountered real hardcore in Gothic 2. Then in my school years, I didn't even imagine that there were such complex games where everything had to be taken into account. It was so fascinating that I didn't realize that it was just a game. It seemed to me that this was all for real. I was really afraid to go into the forest, and I felt safe in the city. It was necessary to think about how to get around and how to kill the monster. The usual thoughtless clicking did not help after this game. Such a feeling. I didn't see any more hardcore and danger until I came across the Dark Souls series. Everyone around me kept saying that it was a very difficult game, but I couldn't believe it, because the gaming industry was all rolling down the casual mountain of the game with its self-healing health, checkpoints at every step, and so on. The first game of the series for me was Dark Souls 2. The first time I was killed in it 10 seconds after the start of the game, because I thought that dogs in the bushes is an easy experience. After 20 seconds, a troll ate my ass, and that's when I immediately realized that the game was great. I squeezed the point and after 30 minutes of the monster's dive, I hit and ran away in horror, laying a brick road until it fell behind. I still beat him. And this is only the first monster, I said to myself. Further, when a pig killed me in the city, I realized that this game does not challenge. She wanted to shit on you, she was made to humiliate you, mock you. These Japanese are sick bastards, they hate their players, Dark Souls fans from beaten off masochists. It's a very strange feeling when you realize that this shit is made to make you suffer. But I still couldn't stop and played on. As a result, it was less than enough for exactly 3 bosses. There were 3 of them in one. I spent a freaking continuous 10 hours on them. And I couldn't. I've never been bombed like this before. I cursed, spat at the screen, eventually resigned myself to the fact that I installed casual shit cheats. I ran through the plot and calmed down. Shame on me, yes, but it was even worse when I came across a let's play a few months later, where the guy took 2 maces and just caught these 3 ghouls in turn and I dealt with them in a few seconds. At that moment I realized that my skin was turning brown, there were nuts in me and I smelled of sulfur. But I quickly rehabilitated myself by simply calling the guys a nerd, but the imprint remained for life, so that's it. When Dark Souls 3 came out, for me it was to compare meetings with an ex-girlfriend. With whom you broke up on a negative note. Okay, she just fucked me up. In general, having overcome my fears, I still installed her to settle accounts with this bastard. And what did I see? I passed the first boss the first time, I was already thinking, what, is Darko not the same anymore? Instead of a troll's ass, now a lizard could eat you, but after a couple of attempts, you realized that she was still far from a troll's ass. While I was lying in a chair, looking forward to the easy passage, I was immediately lowered to the ground by an anal rape by a naked homeless man with a katana and I was like, what-o? After half an hour of torment, I still somehow defeated this devil. In fact, he just fell off the cliff himself. And I realized no. It's all the same good old ultra-violence just with your ass, but in fairness, I note that the game has become, if not much, but 20 to 30% easier. This time I went through the game without much suffering, spending about 6 to 8 attempts on each boss. It became much more convenient to play on the computer. Now by turning the mouse you turn both the camera and the character itself. The design, the environment and the bosses are all the same flavor of Japanese fucking and it's awesome. The atmosphere in the game is simply amazing, which is only worth the initial video, which sets the whole mood of the game. The sounds, music, voice acting of the characters are all done at the height. I won't say anything about the plot, because for ordinary mortals it's just stupidly not there, but personally I never understood it. And for sweaty nerds there are already a bunch of channels, dedicated purely to theories on the plot of Dark Souls, where young academicians Fomenko, cooler than me, will tell how they are from the description of the underpants of the ancient Ariandel Titan. They are trying to make conspiracy arguments about the plot. Summing up, I want to say that I really like Dark Souls. This is a completely unique gaming experience. You can love him, or you can hate him, but it's definitely impossible to remain indifferent. In general, if you are not a pregnant housewife, capable of crying from a couple dozen deaths, I highly recommend it. Thank you all so much for watching. Come to the group and contact, as I publish all the news there. I wish everyone happiness for now.